Welcome to another episode of The Third Shift, the best up-and-coming music YouTube show that is out there. And, bro, another frustrating episode.
Yes.
This is another frustrating episode. I can't even talk about this. I'm gonna let you go ahead and handle this.
I'm gonna have to. So first, I want to shout out my boy Rod, because my boy Rod was somebody I texted a lot about this situation about. So he was somebody who texted me like, "Bro, I'm not looking forward to this Kanye album at all no more. Like I'm over it." I'm like, "Bruh, me too. Like this has made it too far." He's on his second listening party.
Yep.
He gave us a date. He gave us a date for this past drop. So that's another X. And then the actual listening party. Did you see Kid Cudi tweet? I didn't even hear that version of the song when they played a song with him and Kid Cudi.
Yeah.
I'm like, so there's people not even hearing the album yet?
Yep.
I'm like, this is terrible. This is all around. I'm not satisfied with anything I'm seeing.
Did you watch like the live stream on Apple like at all? Like all the random stuff he was doing like
a lot of it was what I seen on Twitter, but
yeah.
It was random, like you said.
But I'm wondering too, like, how many listening parties does he have to have, and how many people have to keep getting tickets to this? I'm just like, because these tickets aren't cheap
at all,
and like you're literally like you're not even getting an album out of it or anything. Like you're literally just getting the experience.
Yeah, I mean, and at the same time, I did see the other side. You know me, I gotta see both sides of the story.
Right.
And the other side of the story is people, like you said, got to experience something that probably another artist won't be able to do for a very, very long time. Sell out a listening party in a stadium?
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how many people is doing that. And they added that they literally think he's testing the album when he plays it at these listening parties. Kind of like, okay, they wasn't feeling that. Let me go back and do something else. And I seen somebody like, I'll go back to 4 or 5 listening parties. There's a group of people that are saying I'll go back to a 5th listening party if he says he having one, I'll be there, because they feel like they're part of the album process now, and that was something I never got that side before.
That's a good way to think about it. I didn't think about that either.
Yeah,
and I think we talked about the features before. And it's almost like the list of features keeps getting longer and longer and longer. And I'm just like, okay, bro, like how many people are you going to have on this album? Like what is this?
I don't know.
I
don't know. Hey, I'm going to still listen when it dropped, though.
Oh, yeah. I think we're like so mad like in the moment because he's teasing us. Like once they get here, like, oh, man, did you hear?
I'm tuning in immediately.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We know how we are.
Hey.
But go ahead.
No, what was you about to say?
No, I was gonna say. So we're waiting on that to drop, but we did get some good drops though. Was it Friday night we got or was it Thursday night?
For what?
Like the Nas and everything.
Yeah. Thursday night. I usually like to say it's Thursday night. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels weird to say like, this album dropped on like Thursday night.
It is.
But nah. So what were you checking out this week? Like, what were you listening to?
Well, the album I mainly checked out It was 2, but the project I checked out actually dropped last week, which was the Isaiah Rashad, The House is Burning. And man, that was an experience. Did you get a chance to tune into that?
I did actually. I was gonna go to the track list because
please do.
Yeah, and I don't know if we talked about this in the last episode or not, but there were some songs on there that I really liked, but overall, like, I don't think it was like my cup of tea, but it wasn't a bad album. It wasn't like a bad music. Like I would listen to it again.
Yeah. So I will give you a little backstory. Is that before this album, he was an alcoholic living with his mom.
Wow.
And I did not know that. I did not know that. So like basically, I did watch something else where he basically said like this process of making this album was very uplifting for him as a person, because he's not that anymore. Like he's completely changed. I ain't gonna say completely changed, but he's in a much better place now. And I almost feel that through the album, because you could tell it's like you said, it's not everybody's cup of tea. There's a lot of different styles that intertwine in it. He talking about some real deep stuff in it, but as a project, though, I think this was it was a surprise to a lot of people. I think he's gonna gain a lot of new fans from this project.
Yeah, and like you said, there's been a lot of albums I've listened to over the years that like I didn't like them.
Yeah.
Like the quality of music was like just not. It was a bad album, and the quality of music I was just like nah. But this one, like I said, I think this is one I could definitely go back and re-listen to. It kind of reminds me in that way of like how To Pimp a Butterfly was, because I remember when I listened to Pimp a Butterfly when it came out, I was like, like it's not bad, it's not Good Kid, Mad City, but I love To Pimp a Butterfly now. Like, and this is what 6 years later, so I mean, it might be like one of those type deals for me.
That just made me think of how short-lived albums are, man.
Yeah,
especially like literally like right now where we're at. What is it? August 7th, 2021. Yeah. If you drop an album today, you don't know if it's gonna make it the next month.
Right.
And that's tough. It's tough.
I will tell you too, and one of the nuggets I will throw in our conversation about keeping albums alive is we talked about touring before.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, like he launched his he announced his tour the other day. So it's like I think that, like I said, his album already is like my favorite this year. But the fact now that he has a tour to go along with it, and I've seen some of the stuff for his tour, it looks like a pretty good show. So I mean, I think that's keeping his album alive for sure.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Definitely. But I do want to ask you one more thing. This conversation kind of goes two ways. I think with the album Nas dropped, and. So wait, I'm trying to figure out. Are you like a big Nas fan? Like how do you feel about Nas?
Okay, first I'm just gonna start this out. We've tapped on this a little bit. I don't do well with old artists. Like I just don't do well with it. Like I'm not saying that in a sense of like I just don't like them. Like it's just their music just feels outdated. Right. But I will tell you, Nas's last album that was kind of decent?
King's Disease?
Yeah. So another one of my boys actually put me onto that one. Like, like Nas can still rap, and it's funny because I bring this up to my dad, old head, who likes all of those, you know what I mean, older rappers because he knows where they came from. And I feel like that's how I'm gonna be with like a Tyler, you know what I mean, a Kanye, a Kendrick, a Drake. Like when they're recording music in their 40s and 50s, like it's not gonna be nothing crazy because we're gonna be like, bruh, they always been nice, you know what I mean? So speaking of Nas, I respect Nas because I know where he came from and I know how good he is, but I wasn't particularly excited about. I didn't even know he was dropping an album until you said something. So I'm interested to hear where you're coming from on the album.
So there are a couple of points that I think are very interesting about this album. And I think we've talked about before. Usually when guys have an album and then they make a sequel to it, I'm just kind of like, if the original one's good, like how Migos did, I'm like, cool with that. I personally think this King's Disease 2 is better than King's Disease 1. I liked it much more, which was crazy.
Yeah.
The interesting point, and I kind of want to talk about old rappers in general. There's a song on here called Death Row East. And he's talking about his relationship with guys like Tupac, Suge Knight, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Because Tupac and Nas had beef for a little bit.
Right.
And he's talking about basically how they made up, like right before Tupac died. It's kind of cool. There's like a little snippet of because when Tupac died, actually, I think it was either the night he got shot or the night he died. I think it was the night he died.
Okay.
Nas was performing. Well, a guy came on stage and was like, "Hey, like 7:03 our time, 4:03 their time, like Tupac Shakur is dead, whatever." They stopped the show for a little bit, gave him a moment of silence.
Yeah.
That snippet's in there. And I'm just wondering, like, with all these new guys and stuff coming out, like, do these old events really they don't really mean much to these, younger people? To me personally, being a huge hip hop fan of Tupac and Nas, both, I'm like, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the younger crowd, how do they relate to these things?
Okay. I actually thought about this with Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Jay-Z understands. He understood this very quickly. What you just said is, I know these younger people won't care about anything I have to say about what happened in the 90s. And you can listen to anything Jay-Z's dropped in the last like 2 or 3 years. Everything he raps about is happening like today.
Yeah, it's current.
And he still uses his rap style, which is fire.
Right.
rapping about current stuff. And I feel like Jay-Z is a perfect example of somebody who still wants to compete with rappers now. But Nas, I feel like, is a good example of, like, you know, like your parents talk about going to like them old like concerts with like artists that were like popular like 20 years ago, and like they still go to their concerts. Like, those artists don't need money. Like, at this point, they're just doing it for the love of music. And I almost feel like that's where Nas is. Nas is forever rich. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to work a day in his life, and he just has a studio. He has a, you know what I mean? Has a producer. He has everything he needs to make an album still. So I don't discredit it because of, I'm sure he has thousands and thousands and thousands of people just like you who tuned directly into that song like, oh, he talking about all the stuff I care about. So, hey, I mean, it's credit to him, but he's not doing that to compete with the younger artist, younger crowd. Like, it's just not his wave anymore, but he can still profit off of making the music he makes.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of funny too. I had this thought in the car yesterday when I was listening to this album. This one doesn't sound outdated, which is weird because, like you said, a lot of the older artists, like sometimes their music does sound, but this one really doesn't. It had a different feel, but he had like Eminem on one song, which I wasn't crazy about. He had Lauryn Hill on one, and so I was like,
didn't they say Lauryn Hill and Erykah Badu was on that song? Am I tripping by saying that?
I think it might have been just Lauryn Hill. It's called Nobody. It's just him and Lauryn Hill.
Okay.
Which I was a huge fan of. If I Ruled the World when it was written, so I was like, okay, like I'm definitely gonna listen to this song.
That song. They said they heard that song said word for word all over the world, bruh. Yeah. They said like literally anywhere they went to perform that song, people knew it, bruh.
That's one of my all-time favorite songs, man. All-time favorite songs. But yeah, I think Nas is definitely like he's in my top 5, but I just kind of got to the point where I'm like, I don't know how many more Nas albums I really listen to, or
you'll probably listen to more. That's why I feel like if you're a fan of him, you'll probably listen to more, just because it is Nas. But I will add to just you talking about older artists. I gotta bring up Lloyd Banks' album. I told you I ended up tuning into that. For those who don't know, Lloyd Banks was in GUnit when 50 Cent was technically the pinnacle of rap for a second, and Lloyd Banks was kind of like Robin to Batman. And I went into it already picturing that. Like, this is the dude who was a sidekick to 50 Cent. Like, I don't know what an album by him by itself will sound like. And I think he had a couple when he was in GUnit, but
Hunger for More was a good album.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm gonna go back and listen to his older stuff just because, like I said, I went into this like I don't expect him to carry no song.
Right.
I was wrong. I was so wrong.
I think I've listened to a couple.
You have to listen. I played it twice. The first time I played it, I was like, okay, that was decent. Second time I played through, I was like, that was a good project. Because you know who he brought on, where I was like, oh, okay, I understand. He brought West Side Gun onto a song.
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
And West Side Gun was talking about some real stuff. And I'm like, Lloyd Banks, it probably opened up in Lloyd Banks' mind where it was like, I can still be in music and talk about some real stuff.
Yeah.
And that's all the album's about. And I'm like, okay, Lloyd Banks, like this is cool. This is cool because that's what there's the older artists like Nas who have already been in the game, and then there's the older artists that just now got into the game. Benny the Butchers, West Side Gun, dudes who are past their 30s that just now are getting record label money. And they don't change their style. Like, their style still is relevant. The stuff they talk about is still relevant, but it's unique because they're the only people, they're the only 40-year-olds on the radio talking about this stuff.
It's honestly funny because whenever I do listen to, like, Benny the Butcher, people are like, oh, is he new? And I'm like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. But he's not. I feel the same way about Freddie Gibbs. I'm not going to lie to you.
Freddie Gibbs, I feel like is in that same boat. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they're all just kind of like, oh, okay, like, cool, but you're like 36, but I'll still listen to you.
Yeah.
I'll still tune in. Yep. For sure.
They give me hope to you can make it whenever you want, man.
It definitely
it's just when you put that work in.
Yeah. But if you're talking about Lloyd Banks being part of GUnit,
Uh-huh.
I was told by social media, mainly Twitter, that GUnit is the only rap group that can compete with Jadakiss and those guys. I was told they're the only group that can compete in a Verzuz. So we did get the Verzuz this past week, though.
Yep, we did.
And you were posting some heaters about it.
It was me and my boy, my boy Rod. He really likes New York rap a lot.
Yeah.
It was a. First of all, I want to say Verzuz. I love Verzuz because it brings up conversations like you said, like, man, now I want to see G-Unit verse, blah, blah, blah. Like this type of like music entertainment, I just never thought I needed until now. Like I'm
right.
all with it. I'm sold out on it. Like if there's ever a Verzuz event anywhere close to me, I'm gonna try to tune in. I'm gonna try to tune in just because they're making it a whole performance now. Like they're going all out. But Jadakiss did Cameron and them dirty, man.
Yeah,
they was playing bangers after bangers.
Like, they were. It really took me back, man. Because some of those songs, I was like, man, I forgot about this one. Yep. I'm going on Apple Music looking them up. Man, but I saw where Jadakiss, like his numbers, like went up crazy after the Verzuz, and when they found out he was on Kanye's album, like they said his numbers went up like crazy.
That will be the trend for Verzuz forever, just because. This goes back to the conversation we had when we started this. It makes music timeless because stuff moves so fast. Like people are always dropping albums, people are always dropping music, and you do forget the ones that made numbers. Like these are songs that a lot of people knew. And it's crazy because you see somebody like Jadakiss and Cameron, like I guarantee you, somebody who's never heard them before looked up their music that night, bro.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
I'm just picturing somebody going back to listen to 2005 Jadakiss. Like their minds blown.
Yeah, they're probably like, oh, this guy was actually kind of good.
Yes.
But see, it was funny because we were talking before this whole thing started. And do you think other genres of music? I mean, you've had like your R&B couple people, like with their verses, like you've had like the Earth, Wind and Fire and the Isley Brothers, whatever. Yeah. But do you see like other genres of music getting into this? Like, because you see like a rock and roll or like country for as much. I mean, we're not big on it, but like, do you see these other genres of music starting to like have shows like this?
I would have to think that if anybody brings it to us, Verzuz should try to be the ones to bring it. Yeah. Mainly because I just feel like if there's another name for it, or you know what I mean, like the challenge of like if it's just a whole different presentation, I just feel like it's not gonna hit the same. They're gonna waste a lot of money trying to compete with Verzuz. And I feel like if Verzuz does start branching out a little, like you said, R&B, blah, 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 but I'm not gonna lie, it just works for rap. Like like that's literally battle rap and all that stuff. Like this is what this came from.
I was literally about to say the same thing. I said I think other genres could maybe do it, but like you said, I think this stems from like battle rap, and that's instantly what I thought about. I was like, I think this works for rap better than any other genre of music. People
forget that the very first Verzuz was literally a beat battle. Like dudes was just playing beats on a stream. Like that was the very first Verzuz. So if it stems from dudes playing beats on an Instagram live to rock and roll and country and all that stuff, sure, but I think what they have going right now, I think is just going to continue to elevate. Like we said, Drake is one of the top sold artists out. I feel like R&B could do something like this, but what does it look like saying a love song and then somebody's like, oh yeah, I got something for that? Like it just doesn't work. Like okay, like
it's
not
the same. It's not the same. Plus, too, a lot of the rappers and stuff now, one of the things I've kind of admired, and I think Soulja Boy and Bow Wow was like this, was they're starting to bring out artists they've featured with.
Yep.
They brought on their songs. And I think that's definitely another cool part of it.
It's a whole presentation, man, and it brings us back to like, dang, he was on that song. Dang, they knew each other. Dang, they was cool with each other. Like, it makes you appreciate the journey that like hip hop has came, as far as they got a whole stage now to just play some 2005 Jadakiss on the goddamn Hundreds of thousands of people watching it. That's crazy.
It was so weird to me to do because I remember watching, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first verses between rappers was Nelly and Ludacris.
I think they might have been.
They were one of the first ones. And I remember watching that, I was like, this is janky. Because like I think Nelly's internet
this is janky.
Yeah. I think Nelly's internet was like cutting out or something, and it was it was either Nelly or Ludacris, like their internet was acting up.
So I went back to look. It was Swizz Beatz and Timbaland, which was the first one I said, where they was literally just on Instagram Live, basically. So the next one was Boy Wonder and Hit Boy.
Oh, okay.
And the next one, The Dream. I think that was the one, The Dream and Sean Garrett, where his mic wasn't even working. Like they had to do a lot, but what made it crazy was that was the peak of like COVID. So like it was hard to get that type of assistance, that type of help on the technical side of things. And I'm looking at the numbers right now, like literally the peak of like that Dream and Sean Garrett one was 40,000 people. Oh, watch that. Like that's crazy. Like
that is crazy.
So it's been interesting, man. It's been really fun to see the progress of it and how they're gonna continue to grow it. Because we could both agree they keep tying in R&B singers, things like that. And my favorite was the Erykah Badu and Jill Scott one.
That was a good one. Yeah.
Did you watch that one?
I tuned into a little bit of it. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. My favorite one, it had to be Gucci Mane and Jeezy.
I was gonna say that was the one that was my most memorable one. If I had to remember one,
that was up there. And then Snoop Dogg DMX was a funny one. That was a funny one though.
Yeah, when they started freestyling and stuff. Yeah.
I'm just waiting to see who else we get in the future, man. Because I think, like you said, this has become like a whole presentation.
This is a whole thing now, and I feel like because I think they even quote the like quarantine period as season 1. And I feel like they only said that because it was technical difficulties. Like the whole time was technical difficulties. So season 2 now is they got all that done. It's over with. Like we ready to go.
I was a trial season 1.
Exactly. Just to see what we could do. And hey, it's doing numbers now.
It is for sure. For sure. We got anything else for this episode or?
Yeah, we could touch on it a little bit. I
know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I was about to say. So, just speaking of live streams and drama online that you can see in real time, we've seen Clubhouse trending for some weird reason this past weekend. So, we go to look it up, and 21 Savage, 6ix9ine, and I would just call him a radio personality by the name of Whack 100, are arguing at the top of their lungs about fighting each other. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Bro, like, I think we said first of all, it's on Clubhouse, so I don't expect too much. I don't expect too much from it being on Clubhouse. But bro, when you sent me the clip of them arguing, I didn't even know that was 21 Savage. Like it didn't even sound like him.
It didn't. Like, he was so tilted, bruh.
Yeah. He was. The whole was funny.
I can't. I told you my first initial reaction was like, this had to be curated in some way. If it was 6ix9ine, you know what I mean, waiting to say something crazy, if it was the radio host about to say something crazy, like either way, I just feel like it was definitely like 21 was not expecting none of that. And he let it be known, like, nah, y'all brought me on here for some bull. Like, this is crazy. Like, y'all really don't want to take me to that level. And I'm like, I feel bad. Like, I would hate, just picture you, Cantley. You're a successful millionaire, 10 plus years into your career, and somebody brings you on their radio station to start an argument with you.
Yeah, no,
that's a waste of time. Like, what are we doing?
It is. That definitely, because when I saw that, when I heard that, I was like, we know 21's past and all that stuff like that, but really since he's been in the spotlight, well known, like there hasn't really been a whole bunch of stuff with them going on. So I feel like they were, but I mean 6ix9ine, who you're dealing with. It's like they're almost trying to get 21 to that point. It's just like, but I feel like that's what 6ix9ine thrives off of. Because his music's not good. I couldn't tell you the last song or album he dropped. So it's like you got to do something now.
That's what he does now. He's basically an internet troll. Which there's a market for that. There's a whole YouTube category of just trolls.
Yeah.
And 6ix9ine is like the leader of that now. I feel like so.
Don't surprise me.
So that was all. I just wanted to touch on that. Don't waste people's time, man. We all here for a short amount of time, man. I'm not wasting no time arguing with somebody on Clubhouse.
Yeah. At least make it like Twitter or Facebook or something. Don't make it Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Come on, do better, folks. Do better.
Do better. Hey, man, that's it for me, man. Another episode of Third Shift, man. Anything else from you, Cantley?
Man, that's it. I know when we do Hollywood Heat next week, there was some Heat movies that came out, so we got a lot to talk about.
I can't wait to talk about Suicide Squad. There's a lot. There's a lot, man. There's a lot,
and I'm hoping the music world gives us plenty to talk about for the next episode. But I feel like between now and then, we'll definitely have some more stuff to talk about for sure.
Yeah. So hey, man, we'll catch y'all on another one.
All right. See you guys in the next episode of the Third Shift.
Yep.